What's going on, folks? Hope you're having a wonderful night or day. Today we'll be discussing an interview conducted by WCCFTech for Nightingale, and the premise behind this article is why Nightingale transitioned from an online RPG to a survival-based sandbox. This interview was done with the studio head of Inflection Games, Aaryn Flynn, and starts off with the question, why do they operate this shift of genres? And the answer is that it came down to the process of iteration and evolution as they honed in on aspects of gameplay, shaped the world, and expanded the team with new members adding their own ideas to the mix. They found that this experience was pushing them more into the direction of the survival genre, and so they embraced that and started focusing their efforts into doing something unique in this space. Now, one thing I want to interject personally here is that they have described this game as being a shared world experience. Now, what that means to me is that we could potentially be looking at a No Man's Sky situation, but it working how it was actually promised in the beginning. Over the course of these interviews and Q&As I've been reading the past couple weeks, one quote they always use to describe Nightingale is millions of realms, one universe. Now, they have talked about this realm system that they'll be using, and how this is going to work from what I gathered is that each person starts in their own realm, but you can start solo or start with your friends. Not sure yet if the game will automatically drop you into one, or if you can create it and invite your friends, or how that works, but alongside having our own, we can go to other realms. And the way they describe it seems very akin to Valheim, where we can take our characters with us to other player realms, but also that some realms might be more dangerous or passive than others, and even feature more unique characteristics and biomes or resources than others. This sounds like we're going to be dealing with procedural generation, but also fast travel. They did confirm that we will be building portals to traverse these realms. So for example, a recent survival game came out called Myth of Empires, and I believe you had to construct waygates to transfer things between PvE servers and PvP. This seems like a form of this, but they also mentioned that we can decide on what type of realm we want to travel to, alongside the fact that they can get more dangerous as we explore them. They haven't mentioned how many people can be present on one individual realm or at a time, but they have said that we'll meet other players and groups of players while traversing these different realms, and at the center of this, we also have the city of magic called Nightingale. This is supposed to be the last haven of humanity, and when we start the game, we find ourselves cut off from it and trying to get back. But unlike reaching the center of the universe in No Man's Sky, when we reach Nightingale, the game doesn't end, but more interactions and options open to us. We'll be able to use various things inside the city, and I think this is the part where the MMO aspect may come into play. My theory is that because we're all going to be reaching the city at one point or another, even if they decide to have different channels to split us off into shards, we could potentially be seeing about 50 to 100 people or more all in the same area when it comes to the city, and then group up to take on these different realms together, maybe even hunt down bosses like the one showcased in the trailer, which is something they did confirm through interviews that we can do. Another thing is that they have confirmed that PvP will not be a thing when the game initially launches into early access, but they have said that if it is something that players really want, they would go down that road. And I think this realm system is exactly how they might do that. They described us as being able to build in these realms and move between them as we want. If you find a new realm that is more to your liking than the last one you lived in, you can move your base there. And because of how unique they might be from one world to the next, I would not be surprised if they ended up developing PvP realms for us to explore through if it does get highly requested. The biggest thing for me though is solving the mystery behind this realm system and how it's going to work. They've already talked about how we will be seeing elements of RPGs alongside plenty of NPC interactions throughout the realms. Our choices are going to make a difference, and we will be seeing people from real life history thrust into this Victorian era, which I'm super excited to see. But we veered off the trail, so let's go ahead and get back to the Q&A. The next thing they ask about is the announcement made for Nightingale did not mention SpatialOS. Will that still be a part of the game? To that they reply that instead they will be employing the expanded suite of tools that Improbable offers, known as IMS, which stands for Improbable Multiplayer Services. This is going to be used for back-end and networking solutions, but they don't give much more detail than that in this Q&A. In the very next question, they do confirm that Tencent is an investor in Nightingale, and for the next one, it just expands a little bit more on the realm topic we discussed a second ago. They asked that they break down what exactly it means when they describe Nightingale as a shared world, and that's when they also bring up the million realms, one universe quote, alongside stating that players will be intersecting with one another as we traverse the realms. And then moving on to the survival aspect, they don't say much other than we can expect a good grounding of survival elements in Nightingale. So it sounds like this might be a little bit on the less hardcore side. Like instead of food and drink being required to survive, maybe it's just something that affects our health and stamina. That being said though, I am extremely curious about the magic system because it's something they described as not being available right away early game, but something we discover as time goes on. As far as the crafting goes, what they say in response to this topic is that they plan to create a backdrop that offers an abundance of choices alongside tools, to be able to embark on an adventure that feels unique to the individual. And so far in other interviews and Q&As, we haven't had a lot of info about the crafting yet, but they have stated many times that it should be a rich crafting system, so I suppose we'll have to see how it turns out. They do mention that if you're not a fan of mainly doing crafting to progress, there will be gathering questlines we can do that might allow us to accomplish the same thing. When it comes to the realms, they also can't currently confirm how big they're going to be, but just based off their description and the uniqueness of each realm and what we've talked about so far, I can imagine that they will each be around the size of Skyrim's map or larger. Skipping down the RPG aspect we already discussed, they do mention that alongside range combat, it will be equally possible to specialize in melee, but also we know that magic will play a part at some point during progression. I have another video planned for the magic system, so we can talk more about expectations and what they've told us so far when we get to that one. But lastly, they do confirm that they aren't really thinking about console release right now, but I know that in another interview they mentioned that if there's demand for it, they will definitely consider working towards that. And they don't have any current plans for porting the game to Unreal 5, but when the time is right for the game and the team, they'll take a look. And that's all we have for today regarding the recent Q&A. I'm really curious to find out exactly how this realm system is going to work, but please leave your feedback on what you think of the game so far, and if it could potentially still deliver an online RPG experience, if not the MMO one they changed it away from. And this video is brought to you by ENEBA.com. This is a gaming marketplace with over 10,000 products that aim to bring you some of the best deals and discounts in the market for any game title. If you visit the website or click one of my links in the description, you'll get access to plenty of different games you can buy for lower than market value. Browsing it recently, I noticed that they have Dying Light 2, which I am seriously enjoying right now, followed by the Royal Court DLC for Crusader Kings 3 that I'll be buying from there very soon, and even upcoming titles like Total War Warhammer 3, alongside others. You can also find gift cards on here, like ones for Xbox Game Pass and the PlayStation Network, plenty of options to make use of. But with that, have a wonderful night or day folks, special thanks to ENEBA for sponsoring, and farewell.